As Rajul put it, today's challenge is to find ways to put agriculture, nutrition, and health together, to find the synergies. I'm going to talk about rebalancing gender roles as a key important, an important key in this. Now, because so much has already been said about the importance of women in the conference, I'm not going to detail the central role they play and their major responsibilities in agriculture, health, and nutrition. I'm going to pick up from the issue paper of this conference, which asks, are there ways to take advantage of women's unique role in order to enhance agriculture's benefits for nutrition and health without adding unduly to the already heavy demands on women's time and labor? I would suggest that there are ways to do this by giving women the resources to match their responsibilities. That means increasing women's decision-making roles, especially in agriculture, and strengthening the knowledge and other resources at their disposal. In other words, equipping those with the greatest stake in agriculture, health, and nutrition to bring them all together. One of the first things to overcome is what I call the farmer in the dell syndrome. Many of you probably know the folk song that goes, "The farmer in the dell." The farmer takes a wife, the wife takes a child. The assumption was that men were the farmers, women helped the men and raised the children. In keeping with this, in the US, agricultural production technologies were designed for and targeted to men. Now, my aunt and uncle were smallholder farmers in the US. And even though my aunt was called the farmer's wife, and may have even referred to herself in that way, she actually had primary responsibility for the garden, for the chickens, did half of the milking and care of the cattle, in addition to cooking and everything else. But the agricultural extension programs were designed for men, and home economics programs targeted women with cooking and nutrition information. Maybe that's why my aunt's chicken production never took off and my uncle never learned to eat his vegetables. But while that gender division between farm and home wasn't accurate, even in the US, it has been replicated in too many countries, failing to recognize the importance and the diversity of gender roles in agriculture. For example, I've never really understood why when women grow fruits and vegetables, it's called kitchen gardens, and when men grow the same things, it's called high-value horticulture. Now, in reviewing agricultural development strategies for the brief that's circulated in the conference packet, we found that homestead food production systems, like this one from Bangladesh, were a real bright spot, bringing together agriculture, nutrition, and health. This may be because a key impetus for these programs to increase vegetables, fruits, and small-scale animal production was to improve nutrition, but also because they put women at the center as producers and decision makers, providing them with agricultural information, water, seeds, other inputs. By encouraging production on homesteads or women's group gardens, these programs helped build the value of assets under women's control. And the accompanying nutrition education and behavior change communication did not just target women, but whole communities, so that husbands and mothers-in-law appreciate the importance of maternal and child feeding practices and don't take over the produce or the proceeds of the gardens. But to be successful, these homestead food production systems also need to be able to link to markets, which can help the women producers earn income, as well as increase the availability of these high nutrient-rich foods for other consumers. But what about other types of agricultural production? Whether dealing with smallholder farmers or large-scale agriculture, many of these same principles apply. It's important to increase women's say in decision-making and equip them with the information and other resources. Equalizing agricultural inputs and assets between men and women results in significant gains in agricultural productivity. A review of gender differences in agriculture found that yield differences are not because women are less efficient farmers, but are due to inequalities in agricultural inputs between men and women, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, where women play a key role in food production, and yet they lack the access to education, labor, and fertilizer that men have. Lack of tenure security for women is also a constraint to their full participation in agricultural growth. Increasing women's assets improves not only agricultural production, but also health. Research shows that assets in the hands of women increase household spending on children's clothing and education, and reduce the rate of illness for girls. Women also have the greatest stake in clean water. Maggie Catley Carlson made that point quite eloquently. And they need the financial and political resources to get clean drinking water close to home, which has a huge impact on women's time, as well as sanitation that affects health and nutrition. In linking smallholder farmers to markets, we've heard about contract farming. But it's essential that those contracts not just deal with men, but ensure that women have opportunities to engage in the contracts and to receive the payment. Now, we know that men and women don't spend income in the same way, and there's a lot of research on how, with increased income, women have more say on household decisions on food expenditure, children's medical care, and school attendance. While many agricultural commercialization programs in the past have led to men taking over the activities or even the income that women produce, fortunately, new approaches make it easier to ensure that women receive the payment. Instead of just paying the men who bring the crop to market, commercialization programs should pursue options to pay women using microfinance accounts that have women's name and photos on the passbook, or even paying by a mobile phone. We've heard a lot about farmers' organizations as a way of reaching large numbers with new technologies, connecting small farmers to markets, and even increasing their voice in demanding services. But a lot of these farmer organizations are male-dominated. It's essential to ensure that women are effectively included, not only to ensure that they have access to the opportunities, but also so that they receive the information and have a voice in decision-making. Smallholders who are anxious not to fall short of quality standards may cut corners on safety, equipment, or increase pesticide applications to make sure that the material isn't blemished. Communicating the health risks to women as well as men and addressing gender constraints to adoption of standards is needed to ensure that the standards are met without excluding poor women or poor producers. Integrating health and safety concerns along with introduction of new technologies and markets, and ensuring both women and men are trained to minimize exposure to agrochemicals and comply with biosafety requirements can lead to improved income as well as health. Including women in decision-making is not just about what technologies are adopted, but also the priorities for agricultural research and policies. This may mean more work on integrated pest management, reduced pesticide use, improving water quality, post-harvest processing, cleaner fuels for cook stoves, or even technologies to reduce drudgery, such as grinding grain. We can't put all this on the already overloaded backs of women. Rebalancing gender roles also means involving boys and men, teaching them about good nutrition and hygiene so that they value the vegetables and clean water, are careful with agricultural practices to decrease agrochemical contamination or other food safety risks for their own health as well as for the market. These changes within farm households also call for changes in the thinking of development programs. The current way of valuing agricultural production, primarily in monetary terms, in terms of returns at the household level, underestimates the value of gardens and the cost of environmental toxins that may be generated by agriculture. Evidence from homestead food production systems indicates that even small-scale production of micronutrient-rich foods under women's control, combined with nutrition education, can have greater impacts than income alone would indicate. We need to take a holistic picture of not only income, but also health and nutrition outcomes in society, as we would in our families. Strengthening women's voice in the decision-making, in the home and in development programs, is a key way to make this happen. Thank you.